name is Troy Simon. I know we're going to have some others joining in here, but I'm going to go ahead and keep on the agenda here. So I'm just going to try to keep this to about 30 minutes for you guys. Last week I went a little bit longer than I would normally like to. I know you guys are busy. I appreciate you taking time. Tar St. Martin, I know many of you today have been speaking with Tar. He is on the call as well. So he'll be able to follow up with you guys with any questions that you may have after the presentation today. You're all muted, but you can use the chat or question box if you want to throw some questions in as we go along or at the end, or try to take some time to answer some of your questions. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. For those that were here last week, I see a few familiar names. Some of this will be a repeat, but hopefully you'll pick up some new stuff as well. We're talking about Acumatica Construction Edition. It's a true cloud-based system. Oh, let me back this up. It's pretty well good for all phases of construction: general contractors, home developers, land developers, subcontractors. Even if you guys get into service, there is some service module available as well. Handles inventory, so we'll go through a little bit of that. Building your business in the cloud. I mean, you know, there are a lot of reasons to get cloud these days. We're seeing more and more companies. I think the last stat on it was 50 to 60% are already moved or making the move from their traditional, ERP or legacy type solution to a cloud product, because it gives you that ability to get out of the office, to work from a job site, to work from home, to work when you're on the go. You get a lot of benefits from having that cloud functionality. But the nice thing is you're not sacrificing functionality in this product, so you're going to be able to get real work done, the same work you'd expect to get done on your traditional solution on this web-based platform. So again, you can access it from a laptop, tablet, cell phone, wherever you have an internet connection. There's also a mobile app that's available. I'm having some trouble with my screen share on my phone today, so I won't actually get into it, but this is sort of a screenshot of it. And this is one of the real benefits that's a differentiator from a lot of other products, is during implementation, we can actually help make some decisions with you guys on, what should be on an app versus what do we maybe run in a browser. And it usually comes down to the real estate that's available. So apps like this, they tend to be more useful if someone's going to be on their phone a lot, as opposed to maybe a tablet, obviously, where you got a little bit more landscape. So, you could enter expense receipts, you could do expense reports, you could take, pictures and add them in there. You can track tasks and subcontracts and change orders and approve invoices. I mean, there's a super long list of things we could do from the mobile app that gives them a little bit more flexibility. Plus, the other advantage you're going to have is we got really good integration. We're living more and more in a connected world. If you think about the myriad of technology solutions that we use on a daily basis to run our businesses, things like DocuSign or Power BI for reporting, or a lot of you guys here I know are using Procore, or a solution like Hyphen Solutions on the Supply Pro side. So there's a lot of solutions that we're already connected with. We have, I want to say, 150 to 200. They call them ISV. They're integration partners. This is just a dozen or so that I know contractors use regularly. One of the things we tried to do also, or Acumatica did when they were building this, is make an easy-to-use interface, right? So they wanted it to be that whether you're on a purchase order screen or a job screen, or a payable screen, that the entry screens all look similar. So once you sort of understood the flow of the program, you could move from page to page and really understand what needed to be filled out and what you were going to get from that. And they also designed it with as you'll see, a single screen entry to the best they could in most areas. So when we get into the jobs, you'll see we're going to be able to look at everything from task to compliance, all on a single page without having to tab in and tab out to different screens for that information. Acumatica as a whole is the fastest growing ERP on the market. So we've crossed over 4,000 customers in 8 years. It's an international company, so we've got offices across the globe, which really lends itself well to having even technology improvement and benefits, because needs develop across the international landscape, they filter back to the U.S. as well, and so we really get a good leading edge on technology. We've got support offices here in Columbus and Virginia. We've got the main headquarters is out of Seattle, so they're really able to pull on that talent and culture of technology that sort of sits out there in that Seattle landscape. But then we've got development all across the world here. It's getting a lot of awards and recognitions. We've won multiple Cody awards, multiple SAS awards. Third-party analyst groups like Gartner put us in their Magic Quadrant for Cloud Core Financial Suite. So, we're pretty proud of these things. Like the Cody Award is sort of the Oscars for technology. I believe we've gotten 4 in the last 8 years on this product. So, really speaks to the code base, and the publications are recognizing it. Most importantly, the customer base is recognizing it and making the switch to Acumatica. So, one of our customers, I'll spare your name to protect the innocent, that's on the call for the second time this week, passed over this information. I know we've got a few Sage users on the call today, as well as some QuickBooks users. But these are some of the things that are some differentiators from using a product like Sage and QuickBooks, for that matter, that you're going to see in Acumatica. And we may or may not cover all this in the demo today, but you're going to get that, the customizable interface. We don't have user licenses here at Acumatica. You buy the actual software, and it's all inclusive, so you can turn it on to as many people as you want and let them have access to it. You're getting a robust product that really works with, like I said, Procore and Avalara Tax and DocuSigns and all these different products right out of the box. So thank you for submitting that. And I really appreciate it when people can comment and stuff like that. We love the feedback when you guys recognize it. So let me hop into the software, and we'll spend 20-25 minutes here, and we'll get you guys out back on with your day. I'm going to toggle between a couple of different pages today, just because I've got some different data sets. Some companies that I would demo would need something like field service. Others may not, so I'll move in and out of those data sets just to show you guys some of the different capabilities. And again, ask your questions as you have them. We'll try to answer them as we go. But as you can see, when you log into the system, one of the first things that'll pop up if you have it set up is a dashboard. So when I log in as an admin, and I've told the system based on my profile settings that I want these things to happen. I want this particular dashboard. I've got these email settings set up as I'm using the email out of here. If I had the software works for multiple languages. So those of you that are on the call that may be working on both sides of the border, whether Canada or Mexico, and you need maybe a Spanish or a French translation, you can have that by the user. It'll in the system. It'll also handle multiple currencies, multiple entities. So you can access multiple screens at one time. As you can see, I've got multiple tabs open here. You could have multiple screens open. It supports dual monitors for those of you that like to use 2 monitors. It's highly customizable, so even some of the input screens can be adapted to how you guys would like to see. We can import and export data throughout the system. So we've also got really tight security. I know when you're looking at a product, you want to know, well, it does a lot great, but who can get into what areas of the system, and you need to really segment that out. So you can really set real granular security in this based on the actual entity. It could be by module, it could be by a feature, or maybe it's even a screen that you guys want to keep people in or out of. You can set restriction groups. So a whole lot of functionality in there in terms of security that the software allows for. But when you look at these dashboards, really just think of them as, a collection of widgets that are combined into a single view, right? So you say, hey, I want to look at a project dashboard. Maybe I want to see my costs, and I want to look at those by project. So we can have those available here. Maybe we want to look at, profit or contract status. So you set these widgets up. They're real-time data. Any place we see a hyperlink, we can actually drill down into the data, get more information. So if we had costs we wanted to get into, we could drill right into here from the dashboard. These could be wiki articles, they could be announcements, they could be event calendars, they could be Power BI tables, And really, you design these by clicking on the design tool, and you could go and you can edit these. So you could set different widget properties within here, tell it the inquiry that we're pulling this data from. This particular one is pulling from this inquiry screen, and it's filtering it by a certain number of records, and we're going to put a caption on it that says, hey, we want these original estimates by project. So you define what the actual widget does, where it's pulling the data from. If you wanted to add your own widget, you can add a new one here and say, hey, I want to put a chart on here, or maybe it's a Power BI, or it's a query. For those of your Sage 300 users that like queries, you could put the queries in here, wiki tables, scorecard KPIs, so that's really, really flexible on how you want to design these actual dashboards that you can use. And the most important thing, I think, here's the big takeaway. Dashboards are in a lot of systems now, and for those of you that use, I'll just stay with Sage, you know, they've got those available to you, but they're sort of limited in the fact that it limits you what you can actually put on the dashboard, and then what you can actually drill into and how far you go. These dashboards are not static. It's real data that you can drill further and further into each transaction that you would see on these particular dashboards. We've got a real, that's one report. So there's really three ways that you can report in the system. One would be a dashboard. The other one would just be standard reports that would come with the system. So when we look at Acumatica, it's broken up into modules, as you'll see down the left-hand side of the page here. So finance, banking, payables, and there's a bunch more you could turn on. I've got mine just reduced down to the ones I would actually use on a daily basis. But within each module, so I'm in finance, I've got a number of reports from profit and loss and balance sheets. When I'm in banking, again, I've got my cash summaries, my register details. If we're in payables, we can look at, you know, different account balances and aging reports and bills pending, approval, receivables. You know, we've got, again, the same AR balance, aging reports here, customer summaries. The system comes stock with, you know, about well over 100 reports. Plus, you can customize, build your own, modify, edit, make a gazillion copies, all you want, and we can show you how to do that. Or if you say, hey, reporting's not my thing, I'd rather have you guys do it, of course, Alliance Solutions is always happy to build reports for you guys. So we can just tell us what you want, and as long as the data's in the system, we can put it in here for you. Kind of moving on, the last type of report we have is a generic inquiry. And again, it's more of like not quite a report, but it's more of a, you don't have to really have programming skills either to get through this. There's dozens and dozens of queries built into the system, from AP to AR to cash management to receivables. It just keeps, you can see there's just dozens here that you can go through. You can build these your own, fixed assets, trial balance, project management queries. You can, and basically all you're doing is saying, hey, I want to take these items and I want to filter them in a certain way, and then I want to look at them. I'll just pull up a query here real quick. You define the tables that you want. You know, what order do we want to group it in? How do we want our results to actually view when we're in the query? And then you can just take a look at the query to see if it's got the data that you want. And this is what the end result would be. You know, we're pulling these reference numbers from these warehouses, and here's our quantity that's pulling in. Again, any place with a hyperlink allows me to drill in and get more data into that actual transaction. So we expose, again, just dozens and dozens of generic inquiries in here, but you can create your own. You can send them to all the data that you see in these screens, both in the reports and the queries. By hitting this button, we'll export this data to Excel. We can make it a PDF. We could email these out, so forth and so on. So I'm going to pause right there on, that's just sort of the general navigation of Acumatica in terms of dashboards, reporting, and just basic functionality in the software. I'm going to come back into this a little bit later and go into just some of the extra things we have, like approval workflows and the different modules. But for those of you that are here for construction, I want to just jump over into construction real quick. And so you can see, so I've got multiple companies in here. I can just toggle out of that one, and I'm going to get into my GC company. And again, my dashboard changes because this is the user for this particular dashboard. So when I look at this, I can go in right into construction and right into my projects. So this will be a list of all of my projects. Again, this could be by user, so each PM could have their own particular projects that they work with. Maybe they can see all of them. Maybe you only want them to see just their projects. You can set it up that way. But I'm just going to pull up a project right here and just kind of walk through that single screen entry that I was talking about on the intro and go through it. So when you have the project, we're able to do a few things. So just kind of starting from the top and working my way down on the summary tab. So we're going to come top to bottom and we're going to start left and go to right. We're able to give it an ID. If we like to use a template, maybe we have a certain template of projects we want to use, we could find a template here. Any place that you see these pencil marks, you're able to drill into that, and you can actually add a new, so if we had to add a customer that wasn't in our database, or we wanted to get some more information or change or update information on a particular customer. Maybe it was related to billing, maybe it was related to contacts, maybe we needed to just see, some different reports on this particular customer. Do they have any balances outstanding? What's their profile? There's different things you can do. So anytime you see that pencil there, you're able to drill in and either create new data or query some data out of that. Kind of moving right along through, as I set up the project, I'm able to tell it a start and an end date that we're anticipating, assign that project manager to it. I can turn on these workflows here. So maybe I want to lock the budget down. Once we get this all set up, we want to lock our commitments or lock our budget. So any changes that would be made would require a change order. You can see I accidentally just uncheck that. If I tell it that we're going to use it, we need to use change orders, we select this change order workflow, and that will require a change order to any budget items that we have that go over budget or that are outside the scope of the budget. I can define my billing periods. What are my terms? What type of billing am I going to use? Is it going to be progress billing? Are we going to use time and material? What retainage are we tracking? Again, contacts and address information. We can look at tasks. So think of task as a more of a multifaceted field. It could be a sub job if you wanted it to be. It could break a project down into smaller sub projects. You could come in and say, hey, let's use this to be building 1, and maybe this is building 2, et cetera. And if you call it a sub job, you can issue subcontracts and POs against it, put a budget against it. If I tell it, it's more of a schedule of values, then it becomes a billing item. So you could say, hey, I'm going to preserve this item for only revenue purposes. But either way, if maybe you want to do it's both. So this line is going to show up on my billing. It's also going to show up as a sub job. So now you can go through and say, hey, this is what I'm going to bill. This is where I'm going to bill it. This is where I'm going to accumulate all the costs. And we just see a lot of use cases where they start linking production to billing. And maybe it's something real simple, like a client might say, I'm going to have one set of tasks for billing purposes. I'm going to have another set of tasks for costing purposes. And I really don't link them that often. So the design is just to give you the flexibility in how you want to structure your budget. And then, so if you think of it in phases or groups of work, you can do that, or maybe you just don't use this function at all and everything is just one task ID. We let you choose how you want to do that. Moving along on the revenue budget, if you guys have your revenue budget set up in Excel and you want to import that, we have a nice import tool right here. You can load this budget from a file. That's not a problem there. Same thing on the cost side. We're able to import our estimates right into here if we like from an Excel or a different third-party program. But this screen also makes it easy to update, what our percent complete or our pending invoice amounts are. So if I needed to update this and I wanted to say, hey, we're 25% done on this particular one here, that's not a problem. I type in 25% on the completed percent. It's going to generate a pending invoice amount for me in this column, and then I'm able to go right up there and just run my project billing, and then I'm able to see the invoice down here in my invoice screen. So real easy, 1, 2, 3. I can enter a percent complete. It's going to generate the pending invoice amount. Maybe you say, well, I don't do percents. I want to just put a dollar amount in. Again, no problem. You could just come in and say, let's bill 5,000 on that, and it's going to update your percent complete based on the invoice amount that you put in right here. Kind of moving on through this, we can also have, again, we talked about import and export. You can import your estimate right here on this screen from loading records. Again, anytime you see the export, you can export that information out as well. Also, if we select these single items, we're able to look at any commitment detail or transaction detail that are related to these items. Let me just say no, I don't want to save those changes. So give this a second to update real quick and load, and we'll show any commitment details that we have against this R1403. And you can see I do have a commitment on this particular line item. It's that subcontract document. And if I click on the link, I can drill in further to the actual document itself. So from here, I can get more document details. Again, just getting more information about, what are our line descriptions, what are our costs, any vendor information that we have on this particular subcontract. Is there a compliance issue? I can see that this one, because I've got this little yellow alert, he's got expired compliance documents that need addressed. And again, it's going to give me just more information about the actual totals and retainage that we were tracking on this particular line item. All right, let me back up here. Oh, I went too far. Moving on, just kind of working our way down the line here. You guys can see we've got employees as well. So the system sort of assumes that all your employees are allowed to work on the project. But if you wanted to restrict certain employees from this particular project, you could do that here by adding them in. We can track equipment cost. So if you have equipment that you want to have a rate to and a setup rate, and you can actually track those costs here within the system. All of your change orders for the project will be right here within the change order tab. So from in here, you could add a new change order. You could see all of your change orders are on the project. Again, I see a highlight or I can drill right in there or hyperlink, and I can get my change order details on that particular change order. So from a revenue budget, I can look at the cost side of the change order. What do the commitments look like for that particular change order? And again, here's all my dollar figure, my gross margin percent. Maybe I want to email this change order out. Maybe I want to just print it. So I can print the change order right from there as well. So again, single entry. I can look at activity. So maybe I want to track phone calls or emails with about the project. If I'm using the CRM capabilities within the system, you can show that here. So we could add tasks. Maybe there's tasks that need completed. Maybe there's follow-up calls that you want to add in here and assign to a user. You can do that. Maybe there's an event that needs to take place or an email you want to track. All that activity history would be here if I were using the CRM portion of Acumatica. Moving along, attributes, we think of those as like custom fields, GL accounts that are set up here for this particular project. These are the default values. This just shows our balances. So if I want to, again, look at transactions related to income and expenses or vice versa, I can do that here. But this is my one tab where I can look and see, what's my total for labor, material, my subcontract total, what are my expense totals, how am I doing on the project? What percent am I complete on this project as a whole? Any commitments? Again, this is where all of my purchase orders and subcontracts will reside. And again, we see the hyperlink. We could drill in and get more information on that. One thing to note that, let me see if I can find one that has I believe I have a file right here I could show you guys. This system is automatically, I mentioned DocuSign, connected with DocuSign. So if we had a purchase order or subcontract agreement or something we wanted to send out and get signature for, by hitting that edit button on the actual form, I could, if I had DocuSign or Adobe eSign turned on, there would be a tab right here that said DocuSign. By clicking on that, it would sign you into your DocuSign account. You could send that information out to get digital signature. When it was signed, the newest version would come in and log itself in here into the system. So you would see the signed DocuSign copy sitting up here in this file box on the project. Here's all my invoices for the project. So if I want to just drill in and take a look at an invoice, I'll show you guys that. So here's my progress billing, my percent complete, the amount that I'm set to invoice. If I want to just print this, you could email this out, you could print it and mail it, fax it. Those of you that are still using faxes. And this is just our standard sort of invoice that comes with the system. This, again, any form that you see can be edited. We can customize these for you, but this is what you get: project task, description, your total amount, retainage amount. as our invoice. So again, we can really define these reports to however you guys want to see them. Any approvals that I had on the system, so if I had approval workflow set up in here where I had different items being approved, it would log who approved it right here and put the date and status of that approval and log those in here on the project. Any mailing settings that I have set up or compliance, these are all my compliance issues. So if I want to see, which subcontracts or purchase orders have compliance out of date, I can look at them all in one spot. So again, really just designed to give you that single place of entry, single point of view to where you can go in, get the data that you want, or edit information that you have right without having to go in and out of different screens of the system. So in 10 minutes of construction, we'll go into much greater detail for you guys on a one-on-one demo, but that's just to give you sort of a really broad overview on the construction piece of it. So let me just talk on a couple more things for about 5 more minutes, and I'll get you guys out of here. I just want to show you a few things that really make us unique. I'm going to hop out of this. I'm going to get back into my other company where I've got more permissions turned on. So I talked a little bit about approval maps, and if I look at an approval map, we can set these up on a variety of different things. So maybe you want to have purchase order run through an approval process or an AP bill go through approval process. We come set up with a number of approval maps in the system. You can edit these. You can add new ones if you like. But if you look at like a PO 2-step approval, maybe you've got a certain PO level that says, hey, if it's under $5,000, this particular person could approve it. If it goes over that, though, we needed to go to another approval line. You can do that. We can set up who the approvers are, what are the conditions that would trigger that, and then when the system knows, once we put a purchase order in here, it'll automatically queue up that approval process, and an email will get sent out to the person that says, hey, you've got it'll go, let me backtrack. It'll go in 2 places. It could go on their dashboard, or it could go on an email notification that would say, hey, you've got a notification sitting out here that says you've got a PO to approve or an AP bill that would need approved. So let me just see if I can show one here. It would give you guys sort of an example. So this is just a blank one that would fill in, with the information, but it would say, hey, dear so-and-so, this is an automatic email to let you know that this particular document is waiting your approval. They could click on, this will be on their phone, they click on the document and they could hit approve or reject right there on their phone, tablet, computer, whatever. It could also show up on a dashboard to alert them that they have it. We've also got a assignment maps, so think of like email activities or opportunities for those of you guys that may be using Salesforce. If we have leads that need assigned, or maybe there's requisitions that you guys are handling, purchase receipts, we could set assignment rules up for that. We can build import-export scenarios, so think about bringing information in or sending information out from accounts, sub-accounts, vendor data, documents, batches, attributes. So there's a lot of built-in automation we can do in here. Also, there's scheduled processing, so maybe you want to cut checks on a certain day, or you want to process things in batches or in a group of items. So you could do it as a one-off. Maybe I want to just enter a bill, release it, and process the payment. You can do that. Or maybe you want to process and print all of your checks, at one time. So if we had a number of checks that need to be processed here, we could set up a schedule and say, hey, we want to do this our check cutting on a given day. It's going to be on, a certain day of the week. We're going to schedule it for every Friday. The next execution date is this day. It starts and stops on this. So you can really set conditions up, and then once those get queued up in the system, they'll start to, those processes can begin to run automatically. Just going through real quick, I'll just show you the modules. I know we have a full accounting suite, so all the finance, and I'm just going to show the full menu so you can see a lot of the stuff that's in here. Full general ledger, transaction processing, all the reports, again, trial balance, balance sheet, profit and loss, if you guys want to see those. Let me just pull up one that's probably got some data in it. So we can look at a year to date or a period to date on our financial reports. We can filter these out. So if we were using a multi-company or multi-entity, maybe we got multiple branches, we could filter these out. Let's just show me everything in the East branch, maybe show me everything in the West branch, or maybe I just want to look at it, as a whole. How's the whole company doing? You could do these by, if you had products that you sold, you could do it by product, you could do it by service division or service type. There's all kind of ways to run different reports and filter these reports out very easily within Acumatica. The banking, we can import bank transactions, credit card transactions. We handle recurring batches. Again, importing and exporting from Excel, not a problem on these screens as well. Full accounts payable, so we've got invoice routing and approval that I already talked about. We can handle compliance, joint checks, retainage, recurring invoices. We can do point of sales and quick checks. Our accounts receivable, you can handle, of course, schedule of value billing. We can take credit cards. There's retainage and recurring invoices as well. We can also calculate commissions. If any of you guys are calculating commissions by invoice, we can handle that. There's a full purchasing system within here as well. So you can do requests. We can replenish orders. We can go from a sales order or a quote to a purchase order. We can have different types of POs. So we've got blanket POs, drop ships. You can order for projects. Just, again, I don't have time to go into everything, but just throwing some buzzwords out there that might resonate with some of you guys. Think of requisition types as internal or customer, right? So maybe an internal one, you would get a request for vendor bids. So you could, say, hey, I need to buy, this pipe, and I want to send it out to, these two vendors, ABC Supply and XYZ Supply. I could put the amount that I want in there. I could send it out to the vendors, request those quotes, and then manage those numbers as they come in. Same thing, maybe a customer, maybe you just want to create a sales quote for them from a requisition. On the inventory side, full inventory. So we have a standard inventory or an advanced inventory within Acumatica. The two key features that differentiate standard versus advanced with us are, do you have multiple warehouses, and do you need kits? So think of, I want to make a widget A, and within widget A, it requires, 3 different items. So I can group these 3 items together, and here comes my inventory item for widget A. So if you need to build kits or components of items, we can do that right here. We also make it really easy to reorder. For those of you that have inventory, you can do a replenishment within Acumatica, and you can set it to say, hey, only replenish items that are you're suggesting, or just give me everything that's in the system. So if I had some replenishment settings set up within the inventory package that said, hey, when I get below, 10 items of this is Powerade, for those of you that are ordering Powerade, if I get below a certain stock quantity of that, go ahead and alert me to reorder. And so if I wanted to reorder a certain number, I could just check the boxes that I wanted to order and go ahead and process those for order. Or maybe I don't like the amount that it's saying, hey, you need to order 7. I may say, nah, I really want to order 15, on that one. So the system is going to give you a recommendation based on your safety stock and your max quantity. See, I had 3 in this one, and it was saying I needed to order 7. That's based on my maximum quantity that I want to have on hand, but I can override that if I want. So there's some really great inventory tools here. We can transfer inventory between warehouses. Very easy to handle reorder. For those of you that have landed cost, we can even track the landed cost. For those of you that are working, maybe international. Full CRM program within the system. Let me just run over here to the CRM flow and show you guys just quickly how this would work. Maybe you want to track leads. Maybe you want to track sales. Where's my business coming from? You can do that in this very easy to flow manner, and we can build these flows. Not all of them would have pictures if we customize it for you, but we have some flows built out for finance. We have some workflows built out for distribution and field service as well. But this is for CRM, so maybe a lead came in. If I'm someone that's answering the phone, and maybe I don't have a lot of experience with software, but I do know how to pick up the phone and I do know how to type, I could click in here and I could say, hey, let's go ahead and enter a lead for this person that's calling in, and I could, give it an ID. I could take their basic information. I could say, is this something that we want to assign to somebody? What's the company they're calling from? And just take basic contact information, and then I'm able to assign this to a particular employee within the company. And then from there, within the flow, I could track that right on through the contact status. Maybe once I've determined that they're going to actually spend some money with us, I can begin to track the revenue that's generated, and spit out a whole bunch of reports based on where's my business generating from. So I can really keep track of that lead to cash workflow. I could do the same thing in field service. If I've got somebody, for those of you that might handle service, we've got a full dispatch system in here that maybe you want a customer calls in and they need a quote. Okay, so that I could click on this and I could start the quoting process. Maybe it's a sales order, maybe I want to start at a quote, but I could begin to enter that information on this page right here and say, what type of order is this? Is it a sales order? Is it a quote? Who's the customer that's calling in? If it's a new customer, I can, add them on the fly right here. Maybe I want to go ahead and keep going on this further. I want to give it a project or description. And if I'm an advanced user, maybe I want to go ahead and just create the service order. I can go ahead and create the service order right from the sales order while I'm in here. And then from there, it's very easy to go ahead and just generate an appointment. So we have really intuitive workflows that will take a user from step to step to step. So I can go from customer calls in right on through to the service call and the invoice, right using this screen right here. So if I'm just getting started, maybe I'm new to the company, it's a way to start getting them up to speed. Eventually, they work away from these workflows and they start beginning to use things like you guys saw me doing earlier when I say, hey, I want to look at something, I want to find it in the system. I'm just going to use the search tab. So I'm either going to know where it's at or I'm going to use the search tab. So very easy to get around in the system. We've got full fixed asset piece in here. So you can track multiple assets, do all the reporting, all the fixed asset balance report as well. Time tracking just comes stock within the system for you guys that are outsourcing payroll. Maybe you want to track time on the projects and customers and contracts. Maybe you want to submit expenses or keep track of that, or maybe you got to approve expense reports for those companies that are using those workflows. Again, you can do that right here within the system. There's no extra charge for that as well. I already talked to you at the beginning about Procore. We have one of the best Procore interfaces rolling out here beginning of June. We feel on the market. So it's going to be able to integrate projects and cost codes and customers and subcontracts and vendor insurance, purchase order information, budget items, change orders, change requests. So full integration there. And guys, I talked 10 minutes longer than I wanted. I apologize. I was trying to ramble really fast and get you guys out of here in the half an hour. I apologize for that. But I want to just go ahead and end the call. If you have any questions, feel free to chat them with me, put them in the chat box. If you don't have a question, feel free to catch up with me or Tar. I want to show this screen here real quick for you guys. If I can get it up. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. You could email Tar if you're working with Tar, and we'll get you the extra information that you guys would need. Anyhow, I was going to put our numbers up there, but for some reason it is not flashing. So just real quick, I'm just going to pause. It looks like we have a couple of questions that have come in. Let me just open up my box here. Is there a manufacturing module? Yes, Alejandro. There is a manufacturing module that you can get with this system. I don't have it turned on in this data set, but if discrete manufacturing is something that you guys do, absolutely, we can handle that. Just get with Tar, if you're working with Tar, and he can set that up for you. It's a good question. So yeah, the manufacturing piece of it has estimating as well within that manufacturing. It'll track it from raw goods right on through the actual production of the item. Is that what you're looking for? Okay, great, great. Yeah, yeah, we can definitely show you that. It's the product actually does really well in that landscape as well. Any other questions for today? This was just a screen I was trying to get up for you guys. This is just next steps. What we like to do is do a needs analysis and initial quoting for you guys. So a lot of people wonder, hey, this looks good, but I kind of need a more workflow based demo. And we agree. We'd like to show you all the areas that make sense for you guys to get involved with this. Either Tar or myself will do a needs analysis with you. We'll get you some initial pricing so you can figure out which configuration and what you should be in for an initial budget. And then what we like to do is kind of an executive review. It's the step right before the demo where we'll go ahead and give you the demo agenda. We'll get that signed off on from you guys that says, hey, this is what we want to see, and we're all in this agreement. We can get all the decision makers that are involved in this process, so owners, different stakeholders in the company that may need input on this particular project. We want to get the overall vision, make sure what we are lining up is what is lined up with the company's goals before we kick into the demo. And then the last thing really is the demo. We'll get you the demo. We'll do any pricing adjustments that may have happened because of new information we found out during the demo. Maybe you guys wanted to add a different feature that we didn't show in the initial demo. But there's TAR's information on the screen for those of you who want to jot that down. I know a few of you have been talking with me. Please feel free to reach out to me direct or email me. We'd love to work with you guys in the near future. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the call for today, and we look forward to meeting up with you guys here in the coming weeks. Have a good day, everyone.